This video will cover section 1.8, absolute value. When we think about absolute value, we always think about the absolute value bars. All right, and what does that really mean when I'm finding the absolute value of some number? What it means is that I'm looking for the distance of that number from 0 on the number line. So I'm wanting to know how far is that number from 0 on the number line. And because we're discussing distance, all right, distance can never be a negative value. Even if I walk backwards or dig down in the ground or drive backwards or whatever, I'm still going a positive distance. All right, so distance can never be a negative value. And since absolute value is distance, it is not negative. All right, and as I mentioned before, we'll know we're talking about absolute value when we see the absolute value bars. All right, so if I'm looking for the absolute value of 2, I'm wanting to know how far is 2 from 0, so on the number line. So if I'm looking at 2 on the number line, all right, it would be right here. And then if I count back to 0, that would be 1, 2. All right, so 2 would be a distance of 2 from 0. Then looking at negative 2, which is here on the number line, if I were to count from negative 2 back to 0, that would be 1, 2. All right, so negative 2 is also a distance of 2 from 0. If I could look at some other numbers, maybe 4. I want to know how far is 4 from 0, so I'm looking at the absolute value of 4. And if I go to 4 and I count back to 0, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I can see that the absolute value of 4 is 4, or 4 is a distance of 4 from 0. Then if I look at the distance of negative 4 from 0, or the absolute value of negative 4, if I were at negative 4 and counted back to 0, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 4 is also a distance of 4 from 0, or the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. All right, so if you think about how many numbers are the same distance from 0. All right, 2 and negative 2 are the same. 4 and negative 4 are the same. All right, so if we're thinking about, if I pick a distance, how many numbers have that same distance from 0? All right, and that would be 2. Okay, so when we're solving absolute value equations, we have to look at 2 possible answers. So if you look at the first example here, the absolute value of 9 minus 4x equals 7. What that is saying is that this expression, 9 minus 4x, whatever it equals, is a distance of 7 from 0. So whatever the value of this expression is, it is a distance of 7 from 0. All right, well, what numbers are a distance of 7 from 0? We know there are 2 of them. 7 is a distance of 7 from 0, and also negative 7 is a distance of 7 from 0. So when I'm looking at absolute value, there are always 2 possibilities that are the same distance. So I'm going to take what's inside the absolute value bars and set it equal to those 2 possibilities to determine what my x value should be. All right, then I'm simply going to solve. And the good thing is that they solve the same way, so you can kind of work them simultaneously. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. All right, so I'll have negative 4x equals negative 2 on the first one. And for the second one, I'll have negative 4x equals negative 16. All right, then I'm left to divide by negative 4 on both of them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that all at the same time. Then I'll have x equals negative 2 divided by negative 4 is positive 1/2. And then negative 16 divided by negative 4 is a positive 4. So those are my 2 values. All right, if I come back to my original equation and I fill in my x values, I should be able to come up with 7 inside, and then negative 7 inside. So if I fill in 1/2, 4 times 1/2 would give me negative 2. So what's 9 minus 2? That would be 7. What's the absolute value of 7? 7. So you should be able to check your answers on all of these equations, no matter the type. Also, the calculators in the classroom have an absolute value function, so you could real quickly check your answer using the calculator. Alright, when x is 4, I say 9 minus 4 times 4, so 9 minus 16 is negative 7. What's the absolute value of negative 7? 7. Or what is the distance of negative 7 from 0? Would be 7. Okay, let's look at the next one. It says the absolute value of 3x plus 2 equals 5. Alright, so what I'm wanting to know here is, I know that whatever is inside of here is a distance of 5 from 0. So what two numbers are a distance of 5 from 0? There are two possibilities. 5 is a distance of 5 from 0, and also negative 5 is a distance of 5 from 0. So I need to figure out what's going to make the inner part of the absolute value bars, 3x plus 2, be a 5, and what's going to make it be a negative 5, because I know both of these numbers are a distance of 5 from 0. Alright, so I'm going to solve them. Subtract 2 from both sides. Alright, and like I said, you can work them out simultaneously. That's nice. So I'll have 3x equals 3. And over here I'll have 3x equals negative 7. Alright, so then I'm left to just divide both sides by 3. And for the first equation, I'll get x equals 1. And for the second equation, I'll get x equals negative 7/3. I can check my answer by filling them both back into the original equation. So if I were going to do that, I would do the absolute value of 3 times 1 plus 2. And then 3 times 1 is 3. And then the absolute value of 5. What's the absolute value of 5? Be 5. So since 5 equals 5, I know that's a good answer. Then I can do the same thing with negative 7/3. I do the absolute value of 3 times negative 7/3 plus 2 should equal a 5. So I'm going back to the original equation. Alright, 3 times negative 7/3 is negative 7 plus 2. Negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. Alright, and then the absolute value of negative 5 is 5, which equals 5, and so both of these check out. Alright, looking at the last one here. Alright, it says the absolute value of x plus 2 over x. And so go ahead right now and change that. That shouldn't be an x. That should be a 2. So x plus 2 over 2 equals 7. So I'm looking for what number is a distance of 7 from 0. And I know that 7 and negative 7 are both the distance of 7 from 0. So I'm going to solve x plus 2 over 2 equals 7, and x plus 2 over 2 equals negative 7. Alright, and because I have a fraction equal to a fraction, remember there's an understood 1 under those 7s, I can cross multiply, or I can multiply both sides by 2. So I'll just do that because we've been doing that with our rational equations. That'll help me get rid of the fraction. So those 2's will cancel, leaving me x plus 2 equals 14. Do the same thing over here. X plus 2 equals negative 14. Then all I need to do is subtract 2 from both sides to get x equals 12. Subtract 2 from the other side, and I get x equals negative 16. Then I can check my answer. So I come back to my original equation. 12 plus 2 is 14, divided by 2 would make 7, so the absolute value of 7 is 7, so that works out. Then if I say negative 16 plus 2, I get negative 14, divided by 2 is negative 7. The absolute value of negative 7 would be 7. Alright, so I've verified both of my answers. They work out to be good. So remember, with absolute value, there are two possible values that are the same distance from 0. Alright, and remember, this number right here is telling you what the distance is, and the absolute value bars tell you that it's absolute value.